Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to our second edition of Breaking News for this Sunday, the 12th day of October, 2025. And important stories keep breaking as we wait for the release of the hostages. And speaking of the release of the hostages, there's some new information that's just come across the wire. The IDF expects the hostages at 9 a.m. from Gaza City, Khan Yunis, and central Gaza. This is from the Jerusalem Post. They originally said it was going to be from 6 to 7. Then they moved it to 8 a.m. Now it's 9 a.m. That's about 10 hours from now. All right. And then we have this story also from the Jerusalem Post. Gaza's deals unanswered questions. What happens if Hamas violates the ceasefire? Then finally, Benjamin Netanyahu from YNET says the battle is not over. Some of our enemies are trying to recover. All right, the hostages will be released, according to this latest story, as we just mentioned, in about 9 hours from now, if my math is correct. Now, that's later at night here, about 11 p.m. For us at night here in California. So, what we're going to do, instead of doing it live at that time of night, we'll wait till early morning and do an early morning broadcast like we usually do. We're broadcasting out a little after 5 a.m. We've released the breaking news stories. I'm up at 3 getting them done. If we have to do it earlier, we will. But I'm not much of a night person. So tomorrow morning, first thing on the first thing of breaking news, hopefully we'll have some good news. We'll have basically a summary of what's taken place and give you all that. And so we can rejoice. So please pray that that works out fine for the hostages. So about 9 hours from now, that's 9 a.m. Israeli time. Hopefully the hostages will be released and we'll have good things to report. All right, so let's get to these headlines now. The first one of this one we just gave. IDF expects hostages at 9 a.m. from Gaza City, Han Yunis, central Gaza. These are the three expected locations. In other words, they're going to bring them not just to one place, but three different places: central Gaza, Han Yunis, and someplace in southern Gaza. And the IDF expects 20 living hostages to start arriving back to Israeli custody around 9 a.m. on Monday from these three locations. If the live hostages are stable, they will move from Red Cross custody to IDF Special Forces custody to the Reim base and then on to three hospitals, Shiba, Ichalov, and Beilinson. However, if a live hostage is in immediate medical danger, a helicopter will be sent to rush them to Soroka Medical Center or Barzilai Medical Center. Previously, the Jerusalem Post reported that the hostages would be released at 6 or 7 a.m. Later, it was reported that the hostages' families were told to expect their loved ones about 8 a.m. Now it's 9 a.m. So let's hope and pray we don't see any more changes. We do not trust Hamas. Let's just really pray that nothing goes wrong, okay? Headline number two, Gaza deals unanswered questions. This is something to be concerned about. What happens if Hamas violates the ceasefire? All right, this is also from the Jerusalem Post. Each party entered the agreement knowing what they were supposed to do, but it is unclear what happens if the other fails to comply. The Gaza ceasefire agreement reached last week at the Sharm el-Sheikh summit contains several clauses and many points are outlined in U.S. President Donald Trump's plan. However, none of them address the critical question: what happens if Hamas violates the terms? In other words, each party has entered the agreement knowing what they're supposed to do, but it's unclear what to do if the others fail to comply. All right, so one of the headline headings here is what happens if Israel detects Hamas activity in Gaza? Unlike Lebanon, the Trump plan and agreement do not even include a mechanism of international oversight by multiple countries to monitor the ceasefire. There's no entity to which complaints can be made, and if it fails to do its job, Israel's not given the right to act or strike independently. If all the agree In all the agreements so far, there is no clear directive on when and how Israel is allowed to take action against Hamas. And then our next question is, how will disarmament be implemented? Trump speaks of disarming Hamas, and the plan itself mentions it as well. But no one has yet explained how, when, or most importantly, whether there is a deadline for Hamas to disarm. Without a clear timeline, Hamas could use the opportunity to amass more power, eliminate rivals, instill fear in the Gaza Strip, and continue to take control of humanitarian aid, which they're doing actually right now. We mentioned in our earlier story today, 7,000 Hamas police officers, I guess you call them, police terrorists are basically directing traffic and running things now in Gaza. And when the humanitarian aid truck came in, they commandeered it right away. So they're already doing that. And so Hamas has already signaled it's unwilling to fully disarm, insisting on retaining light arms. Another unresolved question is who will confront Hamas and force it to really relinquish its weapons? See, another unanswered questions. And then there's this question: what have the Arab states received? Trump succeeded in getting Turkey and Qatar to pressure Hamas and is expected to recruit other Arab countries for a task force in Gaza. They likely do not agree to do this for free. Qatar has already secured a defense alliance with the U.S. administration, and Turkey is interested in acquiring the F-35 jets. These are public aspects, and these are stories that have been known publicly. Whether there have been other behind-the-scenes agreement that Israel is not aware of yet, which could strategically jeopardize Jerusalem, is up in the air. So we certainly hope this is not the case. There's so much we don't know. We should find out soon, however, in the coming days, what's gone on, what behind the, scenes deals have been made, especially tomorrow. Remember in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, Trump is going to chair this meeting with al-Sisi, and they're going to talk about, they're supposed to just to ratify the agreement with all these other nations. Israel has been basically very concerned about this, so they demanded to know, because they're not invited, by the way, what's going on. They say, no, nothing substantive will be decided tomorrow. It's just a meeting to confirm their support for the Trump plan. Well, we will see. Again, so much up in the air, we just don't know. Which leads us to our last story. Netanyahu from YNET. The battle isn't over. Some of our enemies are trying to recover. In a recorded statement ahead of the hostages' expected release, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called this moment historic, but warned that the fight is not over. Some of our enemies are regrouping to strike again. He delivered a recorded statement this evening, Israeli time, his second in recent days, ahead of the expected release of the hostages tomorrow morning. It's an emotional evening, one of tears and joy, because tomorrow our sons and daughters will return home, Netanyahu said. This is a historic event, but the battle isn't over. He added there were those who didn't believe this would happen, but our soldiers believed. Many in our nation believed, and I believed. I know there are many disagreements among us, but today I hope also in the time ahead, we have every reason to set them aside. Through our joint efforts, we achieved great victories that amazed the entire world, and they certainly did. They've done an incredible job. Netanyahu went on to warn that some of our enemies are trying to recover in order to attack us again, without specifying which enemies he was referring to. Well, we know Iran is one of them, and he's probably talking about Hamas also without saying it. He doesn't want to say anything before the hostages come back, obviously. But as we say, we're on it. In other words, we're checking all this out. We know who's trying to recover. He added, I'm convinced that precisely because of the victories we've achieved, through our shared strength, we will overcome the challenges ahead and seize the opportunity before us, Netanyahu said. During the war, my wife and I met many times with hostage families. We saw their pain, their longing, their tears. Those meetings guided me in every decision I made during the war. I embraced the families and promised I would not rest until I brought their loved ones home, he added. I want to thank you, the citizens of Israel, you who stood firm day after day with love for our country. Tomorrow marks the beginning of a new path, a path of rebuilding, of healing, and I hope of uniting hearts. So, that was the words from Prime Minister Netanyahu in a recorded statement tonight. So let's hope and pray, all of us, it'll go smoothly. So we will see you tomorrow morning with the latest. Hopefully it will be good news. I'm Don Stewart. Thank you so much for watching. Again, continue to pray. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.